What's up, Dragon Brood? Welcome back to Agro University, where today we're going to be talking about how to get mana screwed less. Basically, we want to be able to cast our spells, and magic sucks when you can't cast your cards. But before we get in, there's a couple of things you need to know. One, nothing is going to be 100% guaranteed. However, you can do some things to really reduce that possibility of getting stuck on a low number of lands when you have a bunch of cards in hand you can't cast. The second thing, though, is that this all actually starts at deck building. It's not even about your mulligan, though that'll be a separate video because you do need to be better at mulliganing as well. But realistically, there's some things you can do in deck building that'll really help out. So we have some charts that are going to, and this time there's less math because I know some people are intimidated by math. But we'll hop in there and we'll talk about why these numbers are important and how they actually work. Also, don't forget to like, subscribe, do all the things, leave the comments, make all the dings with the bells, because that'll let YouTube know you like these types of videos, and then you'll get recommended the others as we put them up. And if you want to support the channel, don't forget we have merch, links down below. Okay, so getting into this chart, there's a thing to understand here. It really matters about the number of lands you're playing for the goal that you're trying to hit, right? Like, it wouldn't make sense. There's a reason you don't see mono red decks playing 27 lands, right? They don't care about having their 5th land on turn 5. Like, that's not a thing for them. So they're playing a low number. But if you're playing something like the control decks, then you need to have more. So let's break down how this chart works and what it all means. And before I get into that too, let me say, yes, if you've ever experienced deck builder, some of this may be obvious to you, but there's a lot of people that need help with this, and this is why we're doing this series. But the goal here is to show you that each of these lands, or land counts, I should say, this is the number of land you're playing in the deck. And yes, you can go to 26, 27, 28, however many you feel you need. But this was a chart. Actually, credit goes to Benny Smith, by the way, because I believe he put this out years ago. But it actually still stands pretty accurate today. But if you notice, if you're trying to hit your second land on turn 2, it's pretty easy to do that. Rarely do people just get one landers and not draw anything else. Now, you can keep a bad mulligan, and again, we'll make another video about that. But sure, you're almost always going to hit 2 land. But now it starts becoming, okay, what if I want to get my 3rd land on turn 3? Well, at 20 lands, you probably don't care that much. This is where the mono white life gain decks fall in, with so many 1 and 2 mana things, or some of the mono red decks that actually just have almost nothing. That, I mean, maybe a set of Screaming Nemesis or something, and nothing else really costs more than 1 or 2. So they don't mind. They're not worried about that. But even then, that's an 86% chance, even with 20 lands. So that's probably fine. But there's sometimes when they're trying to cast more spells, sometimes they need to burn stuff while also playing a bunch of 2 mana things. And that's when you'll see them creep up to a 21st or 22nd land. So okay, by turn 3, I can almost guarantee 90% that I'll have 3 mana. That's kind of where you want to be. But if you notice, most decks really hang out in the 24, 25, 26 land pile, right? Because you're trying to get to 4 mana almost always for a lot of these lists. So you're trying to do everything you can to manipulate these numbers. It can be said that if you have stuff that's a cantrip, a spell that draws more cards, or anything like that, then yes, those are going to increase your odds, because now you're digging to see more cards. That increases the odds you'll get to the land. But this is just straight up, if you just have lands, no way to draw cards, what are the odds I'm going to hit my lands? But again, it matters on the type of deck you're trying to play, right? For instance, let's say you're playing the Reanimator decks. The current Reanimator decks are trying to play Cavero or Superior Spider-Man, whatever your flavor of preference is, and you need to get to 4 mana, right? You need to have 4 untapped lands on turn 4 to be able to copy something in your graveyard and combo out. So a lot of times they're going to be in that 24, 25, maybe even 26 lands, but mostly in them being the 24, 25. So you can increase the odds of on turn 4, there's an 80% chance here that you can see where, all right, they're going to be able to get that almost always. 4 out of 5 times they should hit that. And also, that changes if you want to play a control pile. A lot of times we'll see control decks end up missing their 4th or 5th mana to be able to cast their board sweeper because they're only playing 23 or 24 land. There's a reason you see a lot of those decks go not even beyond 25. They'll play 26, 27, 28, maybe even up to 30 lands, actually. That's not unheard of for some control decks. But I'm going to move this over here for a second so you can also see on this chart. roughly every land you add, and we're talking about turn 5. Mostly it stops on turn 5 because rarely are there things you need to cast on 6 or on 7 that you don't have some type of trick for, whether you're ramping up or you're using Convoke or something else, right? So 5 makes sense. But if you notice here, pretty much at every level, you're gaining 4 to 5% for each land that you include. So extrapolating that out, if you were to add a 26 land, then you're probably going to be in the 72 to 73% chance to hit it, right? And then if you add a 27th land, then that's going to put you into like 75 to 76 territory. So you're getting really close. That's, you start seeing why they play that 27th land, all right? Because 27th then starts putting you close to that 80% chance to have that 5th land on turn 5, right? That makes a huge difference when you're trying to cast something like Ultima that your deck's relying on to stay in the game. And it doesn't have to be Ultima, it could be anything. But if it's a 5-mana spell, this is where you want to be. And again, this doesn't account for things like Llanowar Elves or whatnot. Like, there could be a bunch of other things that can manipulate this. This is about just hitting the raw lands. Now, let me say that color considerations do make a difference. So, if you're playing 2 colors or 3 colors or whatever, it's not just the number of lands that will matter then, it's the types of mana that each land can produce. So that gets a little bit deeper, and that'll probably be the next video we do in the series. Because what you will want in a monocolor deck is going to be less stringent than what you're going to want on a multicolor deck. And not just that, but it's going to be also, can you shave a land or two because you don't have as many color requirements, right? So that video is probably going to be a little more in-depth, and we'll probably use some examples from MTG Arena for that to make it a little bit easier to understand. But again, like, subscribe, hit all the things that make the dings to make sure that you don't miss that. But let's get back to the chart for a second. One thing I would like to challenge you to do for extra homework, if you will, is if you're struggling with mana, or mana screw particularly is what we're talking about today, try to compare your deck to this chart and say, hey, am I playing enough lands, right? If I'm not drawing lands enough, or I feel like it's happening a lot, let me go ahead and say, okay, maybe I'm playing 23 lands. Let me find a way to shave 1 or 2 spells and get myself up to 24 or 25 and see what happens. Then play some games and see how often that happens to you. Now, the other question might be, if I'm going to cut something to add lands, what should those things be? My recommendation there would be either one of 2 things. Shaving one of the most expensive cards in the deck because you're already going to have trouble casting them, so taking one of those out probably smooths the deck out quite a bit. Or whatever you're seeming to have as the least impactful card. Maybe something you're playing just for one matchup only and it doesn't really do much in other situations. Or it's kind of like your fun of card that you're just playing because you're a fan of the card, but it's not necessarily super core to the strategy, right? Try to cut those things for lands first. Now, one thing you'll see on my channel that I do get a little bit greedy and I'll add a 61st card. That's not for any particular reason. I've seen people speculate that, like, oh, you're doing this because it manipulates the shuffler and blah, blah. No, literally none of that. I'm just greedy. Sometimes I just go, you know what, let me play this extra card. I don't want to cut anything. It has nothing to do with anything else. Matter of fact, if you're trying to play tighter and you want to make sure your odds are perfect, then you want to cut down to 60. That being said, I'm playing on the arena ladder. It's not a big deal. I'm okay playing the extra card. But every card does change the math ever so slightly, but it does change it. Maybe 1 percentage point or whatever, but it does make a difference. So something to think about there as well. Try to stay as close to 60 as possible because it'll make your math work more accurately. Kind of the easiest way to say that. So like I said, today didn't have a lot of math. It was actually pretty easy, one chart. Go back, screen cap it, make sure you have it whenever you're deck building, or just tag this video so save it in your favorites so you can reference it for later. Also, I want to know, is this series helping you? Because I believe this is like our 3rd or 4th in this series. So if you haven't watched the others, I recommend you go back and watch them. Or are these topics I'm telling you are coming up important to you? Either way, I'd like to know. But as always, it's all of you for now. We'll see you next time.